Okay, picture this, a sleepy little Irish village, the sound of thundering hooves on a racetrack, and one of the most audacious heists in history. But here's the kicker. The guy behind it all, he didn't have a weapon, he didn't wear a mask. In fact, he never broke a single law. This is the absolutely wild story of the Yellow Sam coup.
So that's the big question, right? How in the world do you legally steal a fortune in broad daylight with everyone watching? It sounds like something out of a movie. But what we're about to break down is a genuine masterclass in finding a system's blind spots and driving a truck right through them.
The day it all went down was June 26, 1975. And the man who pulled it off, his name was Barney Curley. You got to remember that name. He was this cunning, almost mythical gambler, and he was about to put a plan into motion so flawless it would send shockwaves through the entire world of horse racing.
So, who was this guy, Barney Curley? I mean, where does a mind like that even come from? Well, to really get the heist, you first have to understand the man. And Barney wasn't just some lucky gambler. Oh no, he was a mastermind who was forged in the fires of debt and pure desperation.
You know, his talent for deception started incredibly early. At just 15 years old, he was already outsmarting his own dad, who, get this, fixed greyhound races for a living. Barney secretly switched some drugged meat meant for one dog to another, bet on the long shot, and cleaned up. But just a year later, everything fell apart. A fix went wrong, and his family was plunged into massive debt. Young Barney had to quit school at 16 to go work in a factory. And that whole period, from running failed businesses to even smuggling razor blades, it taught him one very, very important lesson. Every single system has a crack in it.
And by 1975, he needed to find one of those cracks, and fast. He was in debt for £12,000, which was a fortune back then. So this whole scheme, it wasn't just for fun. It was an act of pure survival. It was either pull off the impossible or face complete ruin, maybe even prison. And that brings us to the plan itself, the Yellow Sam plan. And let me tell you, this was not just some simple bet. It was like a symphony of deception, a total masterpiece of strategy that was built from the ground up to beat the bookies at their own game.
Okay, so for you to really appreciate the genius here, you just need to know the basics. You've got bookies, and they set the odds. A horse that's expected to win, the favorite, it doesn't pay out much. But a long shot, a horse with crazy high odds, like 20 to 1, that's where the massive payday is. Why? Because nobody thinks it has a prayer of winning. And Barney's entire plan revolved around making the world believe his horse was the biggest long shot of them all.
So here it is, the four-part masterpiece. Step 1, find a secretly good horse and then systematically destroy its public reputation. Step 2, target a quiet, rural racetrack called Bellstown for one very specific reason. It only had a single public telephone line. Step 3, create a total communications blackout by blocking that phone line. And Step 4, the killer move. Unleash hundreds of agents to place bets all at the exact same time, all over the country.
Now let's talk about the star of the show, the horse, Yellow Sam, who was actually named after Barney's own father. The truth was, Yellow Sam was a really good horse, especially on firm ground. But Barney knew that in betting, perception is reality. So he deliberately entered Yellow Sam in races on soft, muddy tracks where he had no chance. In his last 9 races, the horse finished worse than 8th every single time. To the outside world, his record was a complete joke. He was the perfectly undervalued asset.
Now think about the risk. To get this whole nationwide operation off the ground, Barney scraped together £15,000. And this wasn't just some pocket money. This was his entire life savings. Every single penny he had in the world was riding on this one race. If this plan went south, he wasn't just going to be broke. He would be completely and utterly destroyed.
All right, it's race day. The stage is set. All the agents are in place all across Ireland. We are now entering what had to have been the longest 25 minutes of Barney Curley's entire life, as this incredible plan is finally put into motion.
Okay, the absolute key to this whole thing was controlling information. So, exactly 25 minutes before the race, one of Barney's most trusted friends strolls into the track's one and only phone booth. He picks up the phone and starts putting on an Oscar-worthy performance, just wailing and crying about his dear aunt being on her deathbed. There's this long line of angry bookies behind him, desperate to use the phone, and they can't do a thing. Some are even offering him condolences. The instruction was simple. If anyone tries to get you off that phone, break it. That line had to stay busy. And that fake phone call was the linchpin.
Because all over Ireland, hundreds of betting shops were suddenly getting hammered with bets on this total nobody horse, Yellow Sam. The shop managers are panicking, trying to call the racetrack to tell the bookies there to slash the odds, but the line is busy. The bookies at the track, they are completely in the dark. They have no earthly idea that a financial tsunami is about to crash down on them.
So where was the mastermind in all this chaos? He wasn't celebrating in the stands. No way. He was hiding. Lying low in a thicket of gorse bushes, watching the entire thing unfold through a pair of binoculars. His reputation was so notorious that if a single bookie had seen his face, they would have shut the whole thing down instantly. So there he was, completely hidden from sight, as his entire life savings thundered down that track.
Okay, the race is off. The phone is blocked. All the bets are down. This is it, the moment of truth. This is where we find out if the system is truly beaten, or if Barney Curley is about to become a ruined man.
And then, it happens. Yellow Sam, the horse that everyone laughed at, the certified loser, just flies past the competition. He clears 13 hurdles like they're not even there and just storms across that finish line. It's not even close. Yellow Sam wins by 2.5 lengths.
With those beautiful 20-to-1 odds locked in tight, Barney's initial investment had just gone nuclear. The total payout was a jaw-dropping 300,000 Irish pounds. I mean, that is just an astronomical amount of money for 1975.
And to really put that into perspective for you, in today's money, we're talking about roughly $3.5 million. In one afternoon, he had not only wiped out all his debt, but he'd secured a massive fortune. And he did it all without breaking a single law.
Well, when the bookies finally figured out what had just happened, absolute chaos erupted. They were furious. They tracked down the guy who was on the phone, but he just shrugged and said, "It's a miracle. My aunt, she's feeling much better now," and denied he even knew Barney. So, out of pure spite, the bookmakers paid Barney his winnings in a mountain of small bills stuffed into 108 giant sacks.
This was so much more than just a win. This was the moment a legend was born. So let's take a look at the aftermath, at the legacy of the man who didn't just win a bet. He beat the entire system.
Overnight, Barney Curley became a national folk hero. People celebrated his sheer genius. Here was a man who saw the loopholes nobody else did. Remember, he broke 0 laws. He only broke the system's unwritten rules. And the incident? It forced the bookmakers to totally overhaul their regulations. But most of all, he was given a new nickname, the Robin Hood of racing.
And you know what? That Robin Hood title, it wasn't just for show. This tribute from someone inside the racing world, it just sums him up perfectly. He was a genius, yes, a man who knew how to plunder the system, but he also had the heart to spend that money on the poor. For the rest of his life, he used his winnings to fund charities.
So what do you make of a guy like Barney Curley? Was he a genius, a trickster, or was he something else entirely? A kind of modern folk hero who took from the house and actually gave something back to the people? I don't know, but it's a heck of a story to think about.